Our big oak tree we share with our backyard neighbors. This is the container garden. That was my first step into gardening at this house. Just from Home Depot, or no, Ace Hardware. A silver buttonwood and a camellia. Little spider plant that was a gift from a friend. And Henry, our succulent, and the very first plant I ever got 1 month after we were married in 2012. This pot with rosemary. This patio was my first set of plants in this house. It's been a good house. We've just sold it. So we'll be moving out within a month. So I wanted to document all the special things in our yard. So planted this little olive tree in the spring during Arbor Day when it was dormant. Received it for free. This olive tree, and then there's also a southern viburnum over in this corner, also planted while dormant. Kind of felt like they were never going to come alive, and so it felt like a little miracle when our sticks turned into green. I need to get this vine out of there. It just kind of grew up in the last day. Oh, it's not even attached to the ground. It blew out of a tree. Had some pretty heavy rain lately, which is great because we've had a drought. Look at that new growth. That's new. Beautiful. I was hoping to see berries on this and flowers, but that will be for the next residents. Here's my little nursery over here of sad plants. Out of sight, but where they still get water and love. Hopefully not totally dead. Here's our yard. Now there's our gate. We've been here for 5 years, and we just got the gate finally up in the last couple months as we were preparing to sell it, taking care of all the little things that you put off. I've got 2 bird feeders, one on stake and one on the fence. They are mainly squirrel feeders, but we like to watch the squirrels. This is my tour of our little corner garden that I'm very proud of. Finally planted a garden. This little corner we use as a compost, not a pile, just a compost heap. We would just kind of throw stuff over here. Never really did anything. So it's got a little bit of a circular design. I'd originally planned to just plant flowers in here with a few edibles, but thanks to the coronavirus, I was inspired to try to figure out if we could actually grow our own food. So the design, we planted in the 4 corners tomato plants, one of which died fairly quickly, so I've got a replacement plant in a pot I never put in the ground from my mother-in-law. So I've got the 4 tomatoes in the corners. We've got another kind of tomato on the side there. The 4 corners were large cutting tomatoes, and the one on the side is like little cherries. We've got 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squash plants that look beautiful. Those were little transplants, little slips we planted. And over here were 6 little spots where I planted basil, and only 4 of them germinated. We never replaced the other 2. It's got 2 little bare spots. But I'm very proud of my things I grew from seed. It feels even more special when it came from seed. So here's one of our corner tomatoes. Got little green tomatoes on. We're closing in a few weeks, so I don't know how quickly tomatoes ripen, so we may or may not get to eat any red tomatoes, but I will make some fried green tomatoes. So we've been harvesting squash for the last couple weeks. Every few days I come out here and cut off some squash. There's not a lot of fruit on this one right now, although there's future fruit. Little future fruit growing. Some beautiful blossoms. So it's been a real thrill to eat the squash that we've grown ourselves. It's very exciting, and my daughter gets very excited when we eat it. Behind this squash, really getting very shaded out by the squash, is a row of... Uh-oh, something got eaten. Tragedy! That was a sunflower. And now it's just a stub. Oh, let's see if there's any sunflowers left back here. Okay, I planted a row of little sunflowers that have never really done much because I didn't realize how big the squash were going to get. So there's sunflowers planted from seed all along the back wall here. You can kind of see them through the leaves. But I don't know if the sunflowers are getting enough sun to flower. All right, so here's another tomato. So this here is a muscadine grape. And flanking it on the either side are two little strawberry plants. Let's see, this tomato I left the tag on. This is a Beefmaster. So Beefmaster is what's in all four corners. This little strawberry is an ever sweet. It may be never sweet because something came in and ate all of the productive looking parts of it. So maybe it will bear something for the next residents. So this is my grapevine. We just put a piece of twine up along the length of this back fence to try to give it something to hang on to. And it is the Southern Home Hybrid Grape. It's a muscadine grape. So I hope that somebody one day will get to eat these grapes. I thought about digging it up and taking it with us, but I like the idea of leaving it behind. So these are some spent daffodils that are storing up bulb energy right now. We will be digging these up and taking these with us because these are family daffodils that my husband's uncle gave us from his property. So we're going to try to keep these and divide and spread on our next adventure. So over here on this fence side, we've got a few bean plants, also from seed, which is very exciting. Here's one. Here's one right here. There's 3 right here around this kind of stake that I've stuck in the ground. Got a little basil that popped up that I put in. I put in 2 here and only 1 germinated. And these are supposed to be green beans that get super long, like Asian style beans, and up to 30 inches, says the seed packet. So might be an exciting surprise for whoever just bought our house. So this little tomato plant is so cute. Look at that. Just beautiful. There's some larger bunches down here. I just love those. A couple more beans on this side. And these other squash here on this side. I love this new growth. We've been in a drought. We had no rain for the last few weeks. So I was coming out here to water every couple of days, and it made me very sad. We had a very heavy rain 2 days ago and then last night. So it's very exciting to see some new growth, new life. So we've had a few tragedies. I just discovered one in that corner with that sunflower. It's disturbing. But where this tomato in a pot is now was originally a tomato plant like these other Beefmasters in the corners. And one day it came out and looked very yellow, and I touched it and it just fell over. It had been decapitated. Something had chewed right through the base of the whole stem, and it was entirely off. It was very tragic. That was my first tragedy. It was just a few days after we planted the tomato plants. And my second major tragedy was this whole row on either side of the grapevine behind those strawberries. I also planted, just like against the side of the house, I planted a row of sunflowers. And one day I came out here and they had all been eaten clean to the ground. So it's very tragic. Here in the middle, I just stuck in some flowers the other day because I realized when we moved I would never probably get to see the sunflowers in bloom. And I was very much looking forward to having some flowers. The squash blossoms were beautiful and a wonderful surprise. But I thought I would just go and plant some flowers. So I went to Ace Hardware on my lunch break, because I'm working from home now, which is a glorious thing. And I bought a few flowers. So this is, I think, a petunia. This is a pentas. This is a cone flower or an echinacea. And these two, I've never planted flowers before. I just kind of mixed some compost into the soil and just kind of stuck them in and put leaves on top and watered them. And these two have not seemed to flourish. At least these still have good foliage, even though the flowers basically shriveled up right away. They were huge, and not huge, but they were covered in these beautiful purple blooms. And now they're all kind of shriveled and gone. The coneflower looks a little concerning. But I planted 3 plants pretty close together. I pretty much ignored the spacing they suggested, so I'll fight for survival, I guess. This is my first kind of real independent garden, and I'm very excited about it. I had set only 4 goals for myself, individual goals this year, and one of those goals was to have a garden party. So tomorrow I'm having my garden party to celebrate this garden. It's a little earlier than I had planned, because I hoped to do it when I was going to have, tomatoes and grapes and more of a harvest. But because we are now moving on to our next adventure, I'm going to have my party now. So I've just invited a few folks who I've been sharing my garden progress with. We're going to just have some coffee. I'm going to give them a tour. This has been a good home for our family. And it brings me such joy just to walk out here, walk around our grounds, to say good morning to my garden.